So when we went to Hawthorne, New Jersey, and we got with the Wehrer clan, they were very strict schools. You had to wear knickers, a white shirt, and a tie to class.
What are knickers?
Knickers are like football pants, only they're gabardines and wool and all that kind of thing. They just come to your knee, and you got to wear socks and all that kind of stuff. In New Jersey and New York, I guess probably the whole East Coast, everything is a gang. Everybody belongs to a gang. I was in the first grade and I belonged to a gang, and just a bunch of kids, that sneak out and smoke and do this kind of stuff.
First grade.
Yeah. I was the number one smoker, and then kids would all meet in the evening by the school and hang out and act tough and stuff like that, and we had kind of an ideal situation because our father was overseas. The Hulk was gone, and so we had a real nice uncle, our Uncle Andy, who kind of shepherded us a little bit, and Aunt Rose also, who was just a wonderful person. She was both of our godmother, and she took wonderful care of us. Everything a godmother should be, everything a mother should be. It was just, we were not used to it at all. We were not used to people being nice to us. People hugging you and kissing you and things like that. It was great. I thought, we died and went to heaven. And we'd be playing out in the field, and she would stop on her way home from work and drop off a pint of ice cream for us, and so we'd eat pint of ice cream before we had supper, drank our supper, but ask us what we did today, and really spend time with us, quality time. And so this was the first that we knew what it was like to live with family and have relatives. And we really liked it. It was great.
Because in that 8 years old? 8 years old?
I think I was about 6 or 7. And Bob was, I think, 10. Because you were in
like 5th grade, 4th grade, 5th grade?
Yeah, I'm thinking the fourth grade, and I was in like the 1st grade. So we were only a couple grades apart, right?
Right.
Okay. Good. And I know, but we had a hard time with the academics of the school. They were so far advanced. You had, and this was in the 1st grade, you had to memorize all the counties in New Jersey. I didn't know how to memorize my name. I wasn't too sure how to write my last name. I'd get it right about every 3rd or 4th time. And so it was real tough on us, and that after we came in the middle of the year, and then they passed us on trial. I think you had to go to summer school for a little bit.
Well, I think I had to repeat the grade. I really think I did not learn enough in that half year, so I had to spend another year in the same grade.
What grade would that have been?
Oh, I don't know, 4th or 5th grade, something like that. Because there was just lots of stuff that they expected you to know. Recite. It was like reading literature. Well, they expected at each grade level you read certain things, and then you can talk about these things.
And it was strict, and people were mean to you, Because we were used to being liberal and free in California, the way it was, and they would take you outside, and you'd have reading classes underneath the tree and stuff like that. And in there, you were in all day long. It was like a little prison, And you wonder, when do we get out of this joint anyway, And the one teacher threw a book at me, hit me in the head with a book. I got my first real good spanking in there, where they had the board and the holes were drilled in it, and it was by a woman. She thought she was hitting home runs. Lifted my butt right off the ground, wham, 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 and of course I fell in with some real bad guys there. That's when they used to send people to reform school. And my old friend, I always remember him, he had a butch haircut, blonde haired kid, and he was cross-eyed. He had these round glasses, framed, and we met after school, and he says, "What do you think? I'll break some of them windows?" I said, "Okay." Being dumb, and the whole schoolyard is full of rocks, about that big, gravel, big gravel. Pick them babies up, breaking windows. Okay, boy, did you hear that one? Wow, that one sure. I come to school the next day, they blamed it all on him, you know, and sent him to reform school. That was the first grade. I'll never forget that. It scared the heck out of me. Reform school. And then all the kids got all the stories about reform school and boy, you go there and what happens to you and you know all that. And we used to play as kids. The games we played were mostly about war games, you know, because all the movies that you saw were mostly about the war. And, John Wayne and all the movie actors of that time made war movies. So we would act them out in the woods right across from the school. And so, you know, some of you had to be Japs and some of you had to be Americans and some of you had to be German and all that kind of thing. And I remember we used to use like wooden guns and stuff that, in sticks that made up to be a gun and so forth. And so the popular thing, there was snipers, Japanese snipers out there. And so here would come, the Americans would be coming down the trail, and the Japs would all be camouflaged, you know, with limbs stuck in your shirt and all that kind of stuff. And I'll never forget it. Here they came, and I was in a position, I was going to shoot them all. And I let loose of the tree and went, and fell out of the tree. I couldn't believe it. All the way down thinking, damn, are you stupid? And I bit my tongue. And so I had to go and see my uncle, and he made me drink this what's that stuff that foams up and bauxite.
Drink it.
Put it in my mouth and use it as a mouthwash because I cut it like half in two and just blood all over the place. And I was a real casualty. They wanted me to stay, you know. But and that's what we did for games. Then you'd meet up to school at night when it was dark, and we usually told our mom we'd be home when the lights went on. You know? And but if we were later or not, she wasn't that tough. You know? Our dad, he said, be there. Be in by 8 o'clock. You better be in by 8 o'clock. Anything after 8 o'clock. In fact, Bob used to say, "Well, we're dead anyway. We might as well stay out late." Don't you go home, though. You stay with me. So we both got our butts whipped. But so that was the difference, and we took advantage of not having our dad around. And Uncle Andy was such a nice guy. He was kind of a nice father to have around.
Yeah.
You know, he was kind of neat.
And Andy and Rose were your
Godparents.
Right.
You guys got baptized when you were
In New Jersey.
So he was like a father to you then for
Yes.
a while.
And his mother, I was going to say was straight from Italy, and or maybe Andy was from. Yeah, I know the mother was because the mother did not know English very well. Nazari.
And the father didn't speak good English.
The father did not.
So they weren't related to you.
And Rose was married.
Rose was, he wasn't.
Because
Rose
Rose was
was
Dad's
Related
sister.
to
Okay,
marriage
okay.
only.
Okay.
So, so I was going to say, in the evening we'd all congregate by the school, and so then everybody would smoke cigarettes, and so they'd hand you, you know, big guys would hand you a cigarette butt. So you had to make a kind of a show that you know how the smoking was done, because they were all like gangs and so forth, all that kind of stuff. And I took I never inhaled a cigarette in my life before, and I inhaled it and I passed out. And I woke
He
up.
turned green and then passed out.
This guy is pounding my chest, you know. I woke up and sitting on me. Oh, I was sick. I was sick. And I went home to my mother and I told her I really felt sick to my stomach. And so she called our Uncle Andy. He took us down to this little clinic, and doctor looked at me and so forth, and he said, well, it might be a touch of the flu and all that kind of stuff. And Andy come back there and he had the smell of cigarettes on me, you know. I mean, had the smell of smoke, and he came up and was smoking a little bit. And I said, no, well, it's okay. I learned something, didn't I? But he was nice every day. Well, my dad would have spanked us and all that kind of stuff. But he would, you know, he knew what was going on. He always acted like he knew everything that you were doing, so you might as well tell him the truth, you know. Where,
He was a teacher, or he was
Yeah.
a principal, or his son?
He
Or
was
both?
both. Because he was a principal the last time that we went up, right? But he was a teacher. His son was a teacher.
he was a coach.
Yeah, and a coach, yeah.
A good one, too. In fact, he was the one who patterned my life. I wanted to teach and be a coach as he was. But
Is he still alive?
yes,
He is.
he's in a nursing home now,
Really?
but he's okay.
Oh.
The way I understand it, it's kind of nursing home like St. Mary's, where you can go in early and get your own apartment and so forth. And he can't do a lot of things around the house anymore, so he has a place to have his meals, and he's fine. And he has people there, his buddies that he can sit and BS with. So he likes it. And,
Did we go visit them? Didn't they have a?
Yeah, we visited, yeah.
That was a long time ago.
he had the neatest way of, he raised his brother. Richie is his brother.
Right.
And he had the neatest way of doing it. He never told Richie to do anything. He always went and asked Richie for advice. And he would say something like, do you think that roof there looks kind of jagged? See over there by the chimney, does that look kind of jagged? And Richie said, geez, yeah, we better do something about that. And so Richie'd get out the ladder and everything and go up and take a look at it, and you know, and he'd come back down and say, yeah, it looks bad, looks like we're going to have to replace that, put some tar on it. And so Andy, either he'd go up or Richie would go up. But they had that between them. They could talk about anything together, and just had no blocks. So it was really
They're
neat.
quite an age difference.
Yeah,
I always thought they were father and son.
yeah. But they never, and I guess that's what I'm saying. Sometimes being a father can be a block, you know, and it's hard. Sometimes being a mother can be a block too. But it gets in the way, in other words, and you can't talk like regular people talking. It's hard. But he didn't have any block, you know, and he could tell Richie, he could say, boy, you played a terrific game, way to go, that was neat, you know. Our father he would never say that to you because he was afraid you were going to get a big head. He was so afraid we were going to get this big head. You know, every morning I looked to see if I had it yet. But there was a real neat relationship in that he never got mad at Richie. Never got angry.
At least none that we saw.
Not that we saw.
And they never had any kids, right?
Right.
Richie did.
Yeah, but Rose
Not
and
Rose,
Andy
no.
never had any kids.
They weren't able to have.
So you were like your kids probably.
Yeah. For the time we were there.
And for the whole time then, until Rose died, did you get birthday cards from her?
Right?
That at Christmas time, birthday cards, whatever, she would remember us, and in essence, I would say, would kind of have prayed for us for our success, so to speak. Because nobody took that kind of attention to us.
She made you feel like you were worthwhile. You were a keeper. You know, that was kind of neat. without being real mushy and all that. But the neat part about it was all of our relatives lived right in this block area. Kind of, like there was Lefty and Kate. No, that's not right. Lefty and
The Blocks, who were the Blocks were they were part of Lefty's family.
yeah.
Kate and Norm.
Betty is
Betty, okay, she was
like our cousin,
yeah.
and they're the ones that had their boy that was born without hands.
Right.
And I know it still makes me mad. I went there to see her, and she never brought the baby out.
Reason?
She had a hard time with that.
When was this?
When I came back from overseas. I didn't even know anything that there was any problem.
Oh.
But they kind of bunched it up and put it in the back room type of thing.
But he was very bright, as I remember. I don't know if he was a thalidomide baby or whatever it was, but but being born without hands and legs and that kind of thing.
Is the cousin's son?
Yeah.
Yeah, Carol and I used to like that. And she used to follow his progress. And she sent me little articles how he was doing. And the last I heard that he was an athletic trainer
Or the.
or a statistician or
Yes, something like the statistician. He went to all the games and, did the statistics. This
So
was in
it's just
college,
as
maybe?
normal as
High
anybody
school or
else.
college.
Yeah.
That's the last I ever.
He graduated from college.
Yeah.
And would be a neat person to meet.
And probably is still living right around here.
In New
Yeah.
Jersey.
Yeah.
And then Joey is just
Yeah.
probing with the family back there,
Yeah.
finding, because I told him, I said, you have relatives back there, and they'd be glad to see you. And so he got a hold of Helen, and she wanted him to come over that night
Oh.
and come to dinner. And he couldn't, he had to work, but
Huh.
he said that he would call her some weekend, and they could get
Good.
together, and he could meet them, because they're all your relatives, and you have the right to see them and so forth. Get involved in their lives and see what's going on. And really, what I'd like to know is what's going on back there.
Yeah.
Because since Rose died,
She was like the center of the
She
family.
was,
She
yeah,
kept
she was the
everybody
hub.
informed.
and Kate too would keep us pretty informed. She used to send us
I
all.
remember we went to Kate and
Coupons.
Norman's.
Mm-hmm. Actually, that's what I was thinking about.
In
Like,
the country.
yeah,
Yeah, those big trees.
yeah. That Liz used to tell us that they've
They
kept people in.
there. She was scared stiff.
Who told you that?
Liz,
We stayed overnight.
we didn't sleep well.
But this is the first time we did experience family. So you could go over to see Aunt Mary and Uncle Joe if you wanted to hear them fighting or yelling or so forth.
But all the
Or
families
you could
lived
go-
within one
right.
block of each
And
other.
you go to Grandma's, you go up to see Rose and Andy, or else you could go over and see Liz and Lefty.
Yeah. But no, there was a group that lived in downtown in Patterson.
Right.
Yeah, that's where Mutz
That's where
lived
Mutz's group.
downtown in Patterson.
And that's who Helen was part of, the Mutz group. And she took care of the father and the mother and never married. There was one,
She worked for the telephone company.
And she
every
came
t-
out to visit you in Lawrence.
and she's the hub now.
Oh,
And man, she
oh,
knows
good.
everything that's going on
Oh,
now.
good.
So,
And because she's the one who, now, she's related in some way to Sailor Joe.
yeah, they're brother and sister.
Okay, then that, and because Sailor Joe lives in, I was going to say Arizona or
Las Vegas.
Las Vegas, okay.
He used to work for MGM, the gambling casino. He was security.
Yeah.
He's probably 67, 70 now, but they still live out there.
Who was Sailor Joe?
He is somebody who retired. Yeah. What do you
Who was
remember?
his father?
Sailor Joe, he was a guy who idolized Frank, my father, our father. And so he stayed in the Navy for 20 years. Because
Was
he
he a
thought,
cousin?
that's a neat thing to do, be in the Navy. And he was a neat guy. He was kind of, do you remember, oh, right, the Italian guy that used to sing on Arthur Godfrey, the kid?
Julius
LaRosa.
LaRosa.
Yeah, he kind of was like him. He was always smiling. He had a aura about him. His in the service he was a CPO, which is like a master sergeant, and all the guys that were under him that worked with him, when they were off duty, they all hung around with him. They were his buddies. You know, it was
Was
a
he
wonderful
a
thing.
cousin?
They'd go to the ball games together. They'd go to shows together. All these sailors were, hanging around, and he was just
His
fantastic
father was Knox
motivator.
then?
Yep.
Who was Frank